Luckily, the young woman realized it was just a raccoon before she handed out her insurance information, and despite the gunshot, Mr. Arnold is expected to make a full recovery. Oh, thank you very much, Sam. And this just in, 30-something white guy from New York reveals himself as Dragon Ball fan, has opinions about the video games that he will share at minimum prompting. More at 11. Dragon Ball Z, or just Dragon Ball if you're nasty. Akira Toriyama's gleefully fun, groundbreaking, trailblazing, nation-storming, kung fu comedy cum sci-fi action manga, the undisputed alpha of the shonen series as we know it, and a genuine contender for the title of most famous anime in the entire world. Look, I don't need to tell you what Dragon Ball is. You know what Dragon Ball is. You've either watched the series yourself, know someone who's watched it, or have just passively absorbed details through some sort of unwitting cultural osmosis. Yeah, you see, I was part of that first generation of Ocean Dub kids back in the 90s when it was first coming over. I know it's hard to kind of quantify now, considering the availability of anime and mature, skewed animation in general, but I want you, for a second, to imagine being a 7-year-old boy, all the way back then, and hearing that there's a cartoon on Cartoon Network, or WB depending on where you were, that features grown muscular men performing kung fu against each other so hard that they occasionally blast each other through mountains. And that's not even counting when they're flying around shooting laser beams. For me, at that age, the only way the show could have been more cool is if it somehow deposited pizza into my lap and made me get beat up less at school. My relationship with the series has waxed and waned over the years. In elementary and early middle school, it was the greatest series ever. In early high school, it was still cool and all, but it was super overrated, man. I was all about Bebop and Ghost in the Shell and Akira now. Real man shit. And then by the time I hit college, I had come back around on it as a beloved childhood pillar and could appreciate its unique charms again. And if you appreciate what you're watching here and feel like you could use another person varnishing you with gaming, anime, and movie opinions, maybe like and subscribe, or even tell a friend or 6. It's pretty damn hard to get any visibility on this website nowadays. YouTube certainly isn't going to help me, so any support or interest would be greatly appreciated. Anyway, before we discuss this latest installment, we should probably briefly touch upon It's 2005, and a whole-ass, new-ass style of anime game is unleashed upon the fans. Don't misunderstand, we'd been eating good with the Budokais and the later Legacy of Goku games for years at this point, with the occasional sagas and taiketsu to keep us humble. But none of these games really captured the unique essence of the series, the kinesis of the combat, the enormous scale of the destruction, the speed and fury of the fisticuffs. Along comes Tenkaichi, or Sparking if you were in Japan, with its large open environments and unprecedented character mobility, unshackling battles from the tyranny of the X and Y axis, and finally letting players experience gameplay that was less traditional one-on-one fighter and more, well, something you'd find in the actual show, which I know sounds dangerously close to the trite, it's like playing the series praise you hear in really hackneyed reviews, but in this one case, there really is no better way to articulate what was so instantly rad about these games. When you punched a guy, he actually flew hundreds of meters away, not in a cutscene, but in the actual moment-to-moment gameplay. When you shot off a Gallic gun or a Masenko, any buildings or cliffs between you and the enemy would blow apart as it made its way to the target. It was fresh, it was exciting, it controlled really poorly, and may have ruined anime games for the next 20 years by making the arena fighter the go-to genre for such things. Doesn't matter. I could use Master Roshi to blast Frieza with a kamehameha from a country mile away, and that is beyond price or reproach. Yeah, that first game was pretty rough. Shallow combat system, terrible controls, non-existent content, but luckily it was followed up pretty quickly over the next few years by a pair of sequels of rapidly ascending quality. I'm a Budokai Tenkaichi 2 guy myself, one of my favorite games ever. Still do a full story mode run through every now and then, but of course, everyone knows that 3 is the favorite child. It's the one that people are still playing and talking about nowadays. I mean, why wouldn't they? Great roster, super fast, tons of fun, controls finally tighter than a nun's, and then nothing for 17 years. There was the Raging Blast games, which definitely had the feel of an intended successor to the series, but due to a collection of gameplay and content quirks, never quite hit the same nerve as their predecessors. The Xenoverse games had large casts, arena-based combat, and a heavy fan service focus, but there's so much else going on in those that they're essentially an entirely different animal. And there was Ultimate Tenkaichi, which straight carried the name, but,
This should be fun! There you are!
Sam? Sam, I'm having visions. Get my sedative, Sam! It would take until 2023 for a proper sequel to be announced, at which point the global Dragon Ball community promptly lost their entire shit. The excitement was truly something to behold. Every character announcement, every gameplay trailer, it felt like any even partially anime-affiliated channel had to have like a weekly segment dedicated to the latest news and gossip about the game. Some creators literally made their careers greasing the hype machine, getting hundreds of thousands of subs and millions of views. Putting out Dragon Ball related content that was even tangentially related to Sparking Zero was free views for a while there. Hell, here's a fun fact. When I created this channel last year, the very first video was actually supposed to be a Tenkaichi retrospective. It was going to be all 3 games, and then I was going to wrap the video up with a little mini preview of Sparking Zero. But that turned out to be a lot of work to take on for your first video, especially when you were literally teaching yourself the basics of editing at the same time, so I ended up scrapping it. You know, that should makes me wonder if the channel might be in a better place now if I had gone through with it. Is what it is. So, anyway, Sparking Zero. People couldn't get enough of it. So the game came out, and the reviews are rock solid, the sales are crazy good, the videos are being posted by the hundreds. But then something curious happened. The Dragon Ball content creators stopped creating content for it. The player numbers on Steam plummeted, and the fan opinion on the game, while never becoming overly bad or even all that negative, became much more muted, much more low-key, more, I like this game, it's pretty cool, than the, it is the pinnacle of all things Dragon Ball games have striven for noise it was just weeks earlier. And that's weird on its face because, at a glance, the game looks bred for success. I'm not sure if you have, eyes, but the game looks absolutely incredible. Lavish character models and intricate combat animations and enormous, blinding explosions of particle effects, bright, detailed environments with huge amounts of space and, depending on the stage, of course, tons of shit to destroy. Moving down to the characters themselves, we have a respectably huge roster, all of course voiced by their iconic performers and loaded with all manner of signature attack, quip, outfit, ultimate, pre-fight dialogue. That last part is admittedly really cool. It's genuinely impressive how many unique character interactions exist in those pre-fight exchanges, which is great, since most of the cast doesn't have anywhere else to talk considering the lack of real single-player content or extra modes. Do I sound slightly bitter? Good. I'm supposed to. Let's turn our ire on that story mode first. The trailers for the game promise these huge storylines with richly produced cutscenes and tons of unique branching paths that would allow you to play scenarios never before seen in a Dragon Ball game. And boy, doesn't that sound exciting. I can't wait to choose one of my favorite characters and... Oh, the story mode can only be played by certain characters. Well, that's okay. I'm sure most of the major cast will be... There's only 8 of them. Look, I get not having a story mode for Android 19 or Kui or King Cold or fucking Analanza, but this seems kind of sparse, doesn't it? After all, we have to save our room for only the best characters and give them storylines. Like Jiren. Jiren. The blandest little saltine in God's cracker sleeve. I hope you like whoever the story mode's perspective character is, because that's all you get. Now, fair is fair, the game will switch up the forms and eras of the protagonist depending on where you are in the story. And while some of them are comically short, coming in at just a handful of fights, others drastically outstay their welcome. Yeah, but those branching storylines, and let me stop you on that second one right away, since even those tend to have one hook and nothing else, like, oh, Goku got his Super Saiyan form here instead of Namek, or, oh look, Zamasu possessed Gohan instead of Goku, and... Okay, yeah, hold on, I'm being a little unfair, so let's give the proper flowers before we move on. Some of these alternate stories are pretty neat. I, for one, really loved seeing some of the alternate timeline Saiyan Saga stuff. Someone at Bandai Namco must really like Chaozu, because my dude actually comes in clutch like 3 times in one of them, I forget which. They're not bad, and if there were more of them, or perhaps if they were longer or more radical, then maybe they'd be a stronger selling point, but the biggest problem is that instead of those long, multi-level mini-stories with unique cutscenes and character interactions, the overwhelming majority of them just have you fight the same guy in a different context or on a different level, concluding with a quick text box, and frustratingly, those drastically less satisfying branches usually have the most ridiculously stringent battle requirements to even get to. Oh, and those big expensive cutscenes? You get maybe 1 or 2 a story arc, and yeah, okay, when they happen, they're awesome. I agree, but the rest of the time, I hope you like static images of character models with text. The big knock-on problem with this is an absolutely massive roster with huge swaths of characters with absolutely nothing to do. Having the movie villains is really cool, but unless I make the effort to take them into versus mode or online, I'm never going to actually see, hear, or fight them. Oh, but Dave, what about those create a battle things? Yeah, what about them? The Mad Libs dioramas, those things? There was all that good shit being talked before the game's release, how we were going to be able to make our own full-fledged anime-style dramatic conflicts, and it was going to be basically infinite content, but this shit ain't Mario Maker. Again, I hope you like still scenes of characters trading barely coherent, generic text back and forth before some ludicrously frustrating nonsense fight happens. So it's a little bit one note in terms of content. All that matters is that it's fun to play, right? And truth be told, yeah, I actually do enjoy playing the game a fair bit. I played for hours to capture footage for this video, and I enjoyed most of my time doing so. And yet this is also where we come to the second part of this video's title. Again, at first blush, everything seems fine. Character movement is quick and responsive, combos are snappy, beams and various physical supers are but a push away, and every character's personal combat options are fun to explore. And yet, why am I not completely clicking here? It's doing most things right, so why does this not feel quite as good as games released almost 20 years ago? Am I just set in my ways? Am I just a slower, worse player now than I was as a kid? It's definitely possible. And then suddenly, like a lightning bolt, it hit me. A single sentence crystallizing everything that I had an issue with in the game into one central complaint. Everything feels light and stiff. The combat, the movement, all of it, light and stiff. Now, we are firmly in the personal feeling segment of the video, so if you vehemently disagree and gotta get off, I understand, but I hope the rest of you will stay with me for a bit here. When I dodge to the side, the character kinda just shifts with no weight to them. When I'm laying into someone with a 10-hit combo, the sound and sight feedback is tepid. There's no boom to punches or kicks, even if they land with enough force to clear a city block. Even the ultimates, constructed with clear love and care, tend to devolve into different colored smoke clouds that make them feel... I mean, look at some of Budokai 3's ultimates. The screen shaking, the extreme close-up, the beam taking over the whole visual, the camera pulling back to show it from space. That shit looked like it destroyed several small nations. Here, while they're certainly artistically satisfying and aesthetically pleasing, they feel like light and vapor, not force and impact. Oh, we're not close to done. I'm fucking juiced up now. Why are there these cuts to black during a lot of the high-impact physical hits? I know that's a thing in a lot of these games, but for some reason, once I noticed it here, it really stuck out to me. Why is the unlock system so weird and vestigial? In Tenkaichi 3, there was an option in the gallery to hear Chi-Chi give little comments on every character and character form in the game. Some were much better than others, and they did tend to get a little repetitive, but it was a charming and fun little addition that most players remember fondly. Here, we get a whole gab session with Videl, Bulma, and Chi-Chi, and yet it feels like the dialogue and the observations are way less fun or interesting. Why was the DLC such shite? 2 Daimas and a superhero pack. Hope you like Gohans, Gokus, and Vegetas. And while we're here, while the roster is bigger than ever, it also got rid of a ton of the more gleefully weird pulls from the old games, like King Vegeta, Apul, and the What If Ozarus, not to mention utterly decimating the Dragon Ball reps, even removing Mercenary Tao, who had been in the games since the first one. Oh, but don't worry, I'm sure Namco Bandai will let you have them back for a nominal fee. And furthermore, well, actually, believe it or not, we get to end this section on a positive note because the prototype version of this script had me dunking on the music and negatively comparing it to the previous trilogy's excellent, now iconic OST, but you know what? After having played the game for several hours and really paying attention to the soundtrack, well, a good chunk of it does devolve into screaming guitars and generic anime game rock music, you know the type. I actually found myself enjoying more than a few songs, so yeah, I withdraw my oncoming complaint. So obviously, this game is an utter disappointment, right? I've come back, said my piece, and now I'll be relegating it to the dustbin of history with the other mediocre anime games. Would you believe me if I told you, despite the past 10 or so minutes of this video, that I still actually really like it? Bit of behind-the-scenes scripting stuff, actually, here. Probably the most behind-the-scenesiest thing that you'll ever hear. Due to certain time issues, I ended up having to write the script and record my audio before I even went on to get the footage. And when I got the footage, I realized that I was having a good time. A genuinely good time. So for a second there, I thought, oh no, I have to go and re-record everything. I have to rewrite the script. I have to fix all this, because everything I said is not true. But then the longer I played it, the more I realized that everything I had written, I still felt the same way about. But I also rather liked the game. And I realized that that sort of schizophrenic tone to this video kind of fits those feelings. The point of this video is not Sparking Zero is a terrible game and you should avoid it at all costs. Terrible, awful, stinky, bad. It's that Sparking Zero is a very good game that should have been great. It's a reliable and robust skeleton of a proven gameplay system, filled and laced through with thick veins of fan service and sterling production value. It offers the modern anime watcher virtually every character they could possibly hope for and the space in which to play them, with more iconic images and lines and relived moments than you can shake a Nyoibo at. That's a lot of positives, and I'm not here to tell you you're wrong for loving it regardless of what my beef with it is. But for my part, and from the looks of those comment sections for some others as well, all these little content and play deficiencies add up, and they kneecap the game just enough to keep it from the greatness that for a few months there seemed to be its birthright. And that's a damn shame. I'll still be around for Sparking -1 or whatever they call the next one, but maybe I'll just walk instead of boarding that particular hype train. Sorry for the posting delay, really did not expect TMS to destroy my last Halloween video like that. Still, I think I got at least one more thing for November up my sleeve, maybe 2 if I'm feeling really foxy. After that, it's holiday time, baby, and while I already have a festive gameplay experience in the chamber for all of us to enjoy, after that I have to find either an anime or a kung fu movie to tangentially relate to Christmas, Hanukkah, or Kwanzaa. I'll see you all then.